Evaluation of universal grammar in relation to view of language acquisition. We evaluated the view of universal grammar in relation to language itself, and now we are looking at how does it relate or how does it conceptualize the learning of the second language. So, critique of UG-based approach to second language learning process. And over here, when we talk about critique, let me remind you there is a difference between critique and criticism. When things are criticized, only the negative points are highlighted. However, when a critique is done, both positive and negative aspects of a thing are highlighted equally. So there is lesser bias in critique. So one of the things that has been said, and we also discussed it earlier, is that the focus of second language learning in terms of universal grammar would be narrow. That is, we would only be looking at, with its help, at the acquisition of sentence level structures only, because that is the unit of analysis that it adopts. And that means it has left untouched several other areas that might be useful for understanding the second language learning process. So its exclusive concern has been syntax, that is grammatical structures, and it ignores semantics, meaning making, pragmatics, the practical use of language, and discourse, that is a whole chunk of language when it is used to express something or to state a purpose. These aspects are excluded. However, we must remember that universal grammar has its positive points. It does help us to document and also explain the nature of second language. Not just that, it also helps us to map out and understand the interlanguage of the second language learner. If you would remember, the interlanguage is the language that is there with the learner, but it has not yet achieved the native language structures. Nevertheless, of course, it ignores the social and psychological variables that affect the rate of learning process. So that means they can't possibly tell you why some of your learners in the class are learning earlier and why are other learners not learning the same structures which you explained to their learners in the same way. So this would mean that when you want to apply universal grammar principles to your classrooms, it might not be directly related. However, you could say that yes, if my learner is not producing a certain language, although you have been focusing on the knowledge of the language, that means he might know it. So he or she might have the competence. However, it is not appearing in the performance. So as the slip made or the errors that are occurring again and again might be related to some other issues, either related to you could move into anxiety or other things. But all those other things actually are not attended by the universal grammar principles. For that, you have to move in either into cognitive principles or cognitive approaches of learning, or we need to move into socio-cultural approaches. Now, over here, as we discussed universal grammar, please remember, None of these approaches is something like wrong or the whole point is which of the approaches appeal to you as a practitioner, as a researcher to look into more. So the purpose of this course is dual: for you to enable or to understand what is going on when the second language is taught in formal classrooms, and B, also to see which of these approaches or understandings appeal to you as a teacher and you would like to take forth in your own research projects which you will be asked to do.